Hello, and welcome to the April 2024 Teacher Zoom Chat with Music Game Club. I'm Rebecca Trevelise, and I live in Austin, Texas. I'm married and I have 4 kids. We're expecting our first grandbaby any day now, so we're super excited about that. I own Austin Arts Academy, and we have music, art, and dance lessons. A lot of our students love testing out our games that we release every month. So very rewarding business to be in. So thank you for joining us. Our topic today is exploring weaknesses and solutions in teaching music. So I have 7 quick things that we can chat about, and I would love your feedback. If you have any ideas or resources on each of these weaknesses that I've discovered in my teaching journey, we would love to hear from you. So the first one is lack of technological knowledge or advancement. So the music industry, like we have to stay on top of technology and advancement, right? During COVID, a lot of us had to pivot and learn new things, right? Online learning apps, online learning platforms, synesthesia piano aids, Boom Learning, task cards, auto invoicing, auto payments, recording students, recording yourself, and sending to students. So technology will always be a part of our industry. So I guess my question to you is, the tech world continues to advance. So how will you continue to learn and grow in this area? Do you have tools and resources that you use on a weekly or daily basis in your studio? We'd love to know what your favorites are. So the second topic is poor communication. So do you easily communicate with your students, caregivers after each lesson? Sending lesson notes is an important thing in my studio. It's super important for me to always send lesson notes to my students so their caregivers know what happened in the lesson. Even if I have teachers that go to students' homes, even if the parents are home, they're not really probably listening to every note or really understanding what is happening during the lesson. So that lesson note is super important to connect with that parent or caregiver, so they know what happened in the lesson. What was the importance of what happened? If you played a game in the lesson, what concept was it covering? So it's not just about playing a game or using an app or using a resource. You have to make that connection to the parent, like, this is important because XYZ. Also, just connecting with the studio families. So do you have an email list of current studio families? Do you have an email list of previous students, or maybe students who have inquired about lessons but never signed up? So yeah, having a system in place that will help nurture those different email lists has been something that I have learned over the last few years, how to have a system in place. So what systems do you have in place to allow for easy and good communication? The third on my list is reliance on routine. So some students and teachers need and thrive on routine. But what about those who don't want routine? They want they don't want that. Or they want something new every time. So the challenge is, how do we do something different? How can we stick to a routine or an agenda, but maybe have a different approach? So say, for instance, scales is part of our routine. Is there another way we could do scales? Um, so yeah, so I would love to hear your feedback on that. Another option would be maybe have the student create the agenda. And so they may do a different order, or they may do something completely new. And then give them the challenge of asking them, how long do you think it will take for each criteria in the agenda? And let's see if we can get it all done. So I guess my question to you would be, do you rely on routine? Do you have students who rely on routine? And how are you keeping your routine fresh and engaging. All right, the next thing on my list is perfectionism and inability to adapt. So I see this in students. I was a perfectionist as a child. So I've learned to be a guide and provide life skills and encouragement in this area for my students when I see it pop up. Of course, we would all love to be perfect, and we would all truly love to work very little and master something very quickly. But the reality is that's usually not going to happen. So, and the further we get along in our music journey, oftentimes things get hard. They get harder and they take longer to master. Um, I have learned in the beginner stages as a teacher, I am okay with a piece being at 80% and we move on. Like, I'm okay with that now. I would not have been okay with that when I was younger, but I'm okay with that now because we can do a larger quantity of pieces and we're still going to master that concept. It's just going to look a little different now that I'm further along in my teaching journey. So do you struggle with perfectionism, or do you have a student that struggles with perfectionism? How do you adapt and pivot when you start to see this in a student or yourself? Would love your thoughts on this. All right, the next one is an incomplete understanding of music theory. So when I first teaching in high school, I had an okay grasp on music theory, but I definitely did not know how to teach it. Obviously, we don't know until we try for the first time. Like, I didn't have a mentor. Um, really, just what was modeled to me, I started there. So that was my starting point. I was like, well, this is how my teacher taught me, so I guess I'll teach it that way. I didn't know there were other ways. I didn't know that there were, I was just beginning to understand different teaching and different student needs as far as their learning styles. So it's so wonderful that we have so many resources now, not only for teachers to kind of brush up on their music theory, but also to learn from other teachers. How do you approach a certain music theory concept? I know Amanda and I approach things differently with our students. Like when we're teaching chords, when we're teaching scales, we just have different ways of going about it. Sometimes we have to tweak those depending on how the student is responding to our approach. Sometimes our approach clicks, and then other times I realize, it's the student is not getting this. I need a different approach, or I need to word it differently, or yeah. So certain students understand music theory and they're learning, I guess, understanding that the application is so important. A lot of music theory workbooks can be really dry, and it's just yeah, it can be straightforward on the page, but there's no, I guess, connection point that you can make with the student or how it applies to their music. Let's see what else. Yeah, so do you feel like your music theory knowledge is lacking? Are there music theory concepts that you have a hard time teaching? Do you see your students struggling to understand certain music theory concepts? So we really would love to hear this because this is a topic near and dear to our hearts. We love creating games and resources around challenging topics for teachers and for students. So we would love to hear your thoughts on this. All right, the next one, number 6, is lack of or too much spontaneity. So yeah, understanding kind of the ebb and flow of a lesson or a classroom experience. I think that just takes time to kind of understand. Understanding a child's temperament and their emotional intelligence so that our approach can be just enough fun and spontaneous, but still getting a lot accomplished. A lot of students say they have ADHD. It's hard for them to stay focused for a long amount of time on one thing. So you have to have resources to keep it fun and engaging, but it can't be so off topic all the time that you don't get the work done that needs to be done in the lesson. So do you like to be spontaneous or not? When you're spontaneous, what does that look like? And then the last thing on my list for today's chat is difficulty comprehending complex student relationships and empathizing with others. So I think we've all experienced the complainers and the low-level commitment students. How do you keep lessons engaging and moving forward? Being persistent is a big win, and being patient, being understanding. A lot of times we don't know what is the root cause of their lack of enthusiasm. It may not be that they just don't want to be there. It could be other things are going on in their life. So never assume. I've learned that. I always want, even if the child doesn't want to be in piano, I just want them to look back at their time they had with me. And I want it to be a fun, engaging, valuable time. Like they're learning life skills. There are other things that are happening in the lesson that are very valuable. One being just having a good attitude. So I have to learn that. Like I need to be a positive person. I want to be a positive teacher, even in an environment that's maybe not so positive. That's hard to do sometimes. Empathizing and understanding that a student, they may not be able to articulate or want to articulate to you what's going on. And that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to have, I know with some of my teens in the past, during stressful times in their lives, sometimes we just needed to do gentle improv during their lesson. Yeah. And that was a successful lesson for both of us. Like they were very thankful for those moments of very, very low stress environment. Yeah. So a student recently burst into tears. We had just started playing a game, and it was in a piano class. It was two girls in a class together. And at the end of the first round, so it's a fast-paced game, like you have to make a choice quickly. And the person who makes the correct choice first is the winner for that round. And the girl who didn't, win that first round, she just burst into tears. So of course, I did not see that coming. That was, so of course, that breaks my heart. So we let her cry for a little bit. She was okay, but, she just was sad. She was mad and sad. But we kept playing. So we helped her. We immediately, and I say we, there was another teacher in the room. I was coming in to show them how to play this game. So I didn't know the dynamic or the personality of the children. If the teacher, if she had led the game, she may have known to facilitate it in a different way. I didn't know, so I had to pivot right away. So we allowed her, hey, everything's fine. That's okay. We know you're sad right now. Don't worry. You're gonna be successful. We wanted to set her up for success. So we immediately changed and took out the fast-paced, aggressive way that the student needed to label the correct answer. So we basically just switched it to back and forth. So now it's going to be your turn. What is the correct answer? Good. You move forward. Your rabbit moves forward in the garden. And now it's your turn. So basically, their little bunny rabbits hopped through the garden. This was a rhythm game that they were playing. And at the end, we celebrated together. By the end of the game, so probably within 3 rounds, her tears had stopped. I mean, she was crying hard. It was upsetting to her. But after a few rounds, she had stopped crying. And by the end of the game, she was laughing and enjoying her time. So I'm thankful that we didn't stop the game or, make a big deal out of it. We just acknowledged that she was sad and mad, and that's okay. Hey, I'm competitive. I get it. Anyway, by the end, she was happy. They had the success poster and they celebrated together. And I'm sure she looks forward to playing the game again. We probably just won't play in that way until maybe she's ready. Um, I could see maybe in another week or two, we could ask her, hey, do you want to play where, you know, you have to be super fast? She might be willing to play that way. And if she's not, that's fine too. Um, so anyway, do you have a complex student relationship right now? And what strategies and resources have you found work really well when you come across some challenging student interactions? So we'd love to hear. Um, most of you may have seen, first of all, Amanda's not here. So Amanda got married, yay! And she is spending time away on vacation with her husband. So she is not in the chat today, but she will be back in for our May chat. You may have seen that Neighborhood Notes is our April game. Super exciting, fast-paced game that is a note reading game for treble clef and bass clef. So I wanted to share just some quick videos. Let me do this. And pictures of our game so you can kind of see it in action. Let me pull this up and I will share my screen with you. All right. And the video. I'm hoping. Screen sharing has failed to start. Okay, well, just give me a minute here. I will just gonna share my desktop. Nope, screen sharing has failed to start. Okay, well, that's unfortunate. So if I cannot get this to share right now, what I will do is we will share the video clips and the pictures in our follow-up email, and we will also post them on social media. And you can rewatch this video at any time on our YouTube channel, so Music Game Club. Let me try one last time, see if I can get it to share. I don't know why it's not wanting to share. Screen sharing has failed to start. Please try again later. Okay, well, it's just not going to work right now. That's not the end of the world. I will get those so you can see them. Real quick, one of my students who is a very beginner student, I pulled only the treble clef cards and we played that way together, just reinforcing. So I was teaching him, you know, treble clef is G clef. You can always know where G is, and that was kind of his landmark note. However you teach identifying notes on the staff, you can just reinforce playing this game. There are guide cards, so to speak, of the grand staff. So you can print those. I printed them and laminated them for our classes. So we have a couple of beginner classes that have been playing the game, and we have those cards so they can play with treble clef and bass clef. They can play with the whole deck. So with a large group, you want to print 2 decks of cards and shuffle them. The guides really help the student confirm that their treble clef note is the correct match for the bass clef note. So that's where that comes in very handy. So our classes have been using the guide cards, and then the more advanced students, obviously they just fly through the cards. And so it's a very fast, like less than 90 seconds, you can have somebody winning around. And usually under 4 minutes, you can have a champion. So it usually takes 2 to 4 rounds to have a champion. This is a very fast game, very fast note reading, note identification game. So we look forward to more games and more playing and more note reading and more music with you in the future. So we will see you next month for our next teacher chat. Have a great day.